runners are given 15 minutes before the official start of the race, and they can parse through the spoiler log as much as they can, as quickly as they can, to get as much information as they can. They can leave it up for the rest of the race, but they obviously don't want to spend too much time looking at it because it could mess up with what they're actually trying to do in-game. And as from personal experience, I can tell you that 15 minutes is not nearly as much time as you think it is when you're going over something like this.
Yeah, definitely not. We actually see divergence from the word go, as one of them starts in Sanctuary and the other starts from Link's house.
They are both using the same sprite, though. I wonder if that was planned.
Probably. Some bombs out of the Blind's hut, along with our first sword to just get things going. And we see SaltyPhry going with a fish to get some bombs as well.
That's another wonderful thing. The spoiler log for this tournament, it actually gives you everything else, including what the bush crab drops, what the tree pulls are, what you get if you toss a fish in the water. It can really, really help early on with your rupee routing and your bomb routing, like you just saw.
Yeah, we see Mentos grab the moon pearl and the book right out of out of the well, and then just quit out. And you can really see the load that this puts on the tracker, as the items will come a lot faster than they do in a normal rando seed.
That's right, it's basically the same amount of work in about half the time.
They have it down to the chest. You can see SaltyPhry there pick up 3 of the chests out of Mini Moldorm Cave.
SaltyPhry doing some fancy dancing to try and stay alive with that one heart. There must be something good in Ice Rod Cave.
Maybe not Ice Rod Cave. That looks to be fake flippers. Very smoothly pulled off.
Very smoothly.
Mini Moldorm Cave, I didn't see anything worthwhile. But some bombs.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything there other than some basic stuff to just help get what you need early on.
See the flute from the fake flipper up to Hobo. Meanwhile, Mentos is doing Escape.
Showing off some NMG strats there in that room.
It's interesting to see how divergent these routes are straight from the beginning. They've clearly planned out this seed. Both of them have their goals in mind, but they're doing it in a very different order.
That's actually a lot of the surprise. I think early on, a lot of us thought that a lot of these spoiler races were going to be just people doing essentially the same route, and it was just going to be a straight-up race, except for in a couple of seeds where it opened up really, really early, or really, really late for that matter. But I've been actually really surprised with the amount of just divergence that we see in almost every race.
So unlike Mentos quit out after doing well. SaltyPhry is actually heading over here and buying a Boss Heart container from and activating his flute. And it's interesting to see just how many safeties they're going to pick up, because that's the real challenge in these races. Every bit of safety you pick up is time you give up, but if you push it too far, you're going to end up dying and losing a lot more time.
Yeah, that is perhaps the most important part of these races. It's not necessarily the routing that you pick. It's knowing what tightrope you can walk between what safeties do I need, what safeties do I want, and how frequently is it that I'm going to die if I don't get those safeties.
And unlike me, their answer to that question is not all of the safeties, and yes, I'll die if I don't get them.
You're better than me. My answer is I need all the safeties, and I'll probably die anyways. That mini Moldorm got a little bit close there.
Yeah, and we see him running in there just for the 300 rupees. Bit of a giveaway. The rupee routing here, if you need that many of them, it probably means you need Zora when you know where everything is. Because otherwise, you know, the required rupee count is only like 110 for Palace of Darkness.
Oh boy, here comes the bee. Okay, the bee has been put away, thank goodness.
So now they're kind of retracing each other's steps, except Mentosman is actually heading in the Zora direction where SaltyPhry went ahead and did Hobo. Oh no, changed his mind.
That was probably a muscle memory moment.
Yeah, that's certainly understandable. I know we've seen a couple runners like check hints, which can't possibly be intentional. It's just, sometimes you remember it. Yeah, so they are just catching up with each other here. SaltyPhry doing escape, Mentosman getting his flute, probably going to head back to Kakariko to activate it. I do think that's a bit of an advantage for SaltyPhry. They only had to make the one trip to Kakariko.
It is, it's a small advantage, and in short races like this, small differences like that could only be 10, 15, 20 seconds. They add up really, really quickly, as most of these races get done in about an hour's time.
Yeah, and really the push your luck element of this is kind of the most interesting to me in a lot of ways. Just how little health do you pick up, how few swords do you go out your way for tempered, for butter.
Yeah, that's something that we'll see from both of these runners as the seed goes on. We'll see what they decide to grab when they decide to grab it.
And as you might see in chat, you know, the runners are allowed to watch the stream. That's not normally the case with a typical rando seed, but it's not like they're going to learn where an item location is in these from that. It's kind of a nice addition to the normal race atmosphere.
It is. You might see one of them stop in every now and again and say, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or oh, okay, done with that crystal, just when they have a moment to do so, because obviously they don't want to mess up their gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, but if you get 60 seconds or whatever it is in the basement of Hera, you know, have time to say a few things.
Well, Hera is a pendant in this one, so I can only hope they don't get 60 seconds in the basement of Hera.
Well, we find a fire rod there. Both of them are now in the same place, heading into Eastern. This is going to end up a double dip, because they don't have the bow, unless the bow is in here. Which it's not.
Well, as they're continuing to go through Eastern, there's obviously something in here.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the big key location, which I'm going to admit I didn't look at all of the dungeon key locations because there's just not enough time. If it's in the vanilla location, you might as well go ahead and grab it. There may also be a safety in here that he's valuing.
That's fair, and as we can see, one of the fun things about spoiler log races is that we have SaltyPhry in the Dark World in under 10 minutes with green mail and 5 hearts and a fighter sword. Have fun!
And fire rod, so he can go straight to Moth for that fighter sword Mothula.
I don't want to think about how many times I'd have to try that fight to be able to succeed.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a fun one. So we don't see Mentosman doing that dark room, but he's doing it.
That reminds me of the old joke, are the lights on? I don't know, it's too dark to tell.
Old jokes are the kind you get at this time of day. So SaltyPhry grabs the hammer, so at least it'll be a hammer Mothula if he chooses to do it rather than fighter sword. I'm not sure if that's better or worse for... Probably better for them. It would be worse for me.
Taking an intended death there so as to not die in the overworld, that's probably for the best.
Yeah, let's see if they go towards the back here.
I imagine they will, but SaltyPhry is going to need some magic to use that fire rod. Well, never mind.
There is a guaranteed magic in the back there.
There is, but he was saved the trek.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly nice. So we see both of them in Skullwoods now, which obviously makes sense with the hammer being here.
Most definitely, and the fact that both of these runners are going to go after Mothula with green mail and a combined 9 hearts between them means that you really need to give them a follow, as I wouldn't dare to do any of this.
Yep, we see Mentosman take the intentional death there, right as SaltyPhry heads in with 5 hearts. Yeah, not quite able. Manages to plink off of the spike and dodge it a little bit, but does take the death to Mothula. Not gonna give up though. Looks like he's going back in.
To answer your question in chat, Mayokoto, the spoiler log does mean they know where everything is. To an extent. They know where everything is in the amount of time that they were able to figure it out by looking at it in about 15 minutes. So they know where most of the stuff is. Hopefully they've written it down or remember most of it so they don't make any mistakes, but there's some stuff they definitely are going to have to look up on the fly.
Yeah, SaltyPhry takes a death there as well. That might have been intentional just to get a full magic refill because the fire rod will help with the Mothula fight. And you don't get enough to get a full refill in one trip through there. Now, they were in this area, so it does make sense from a routing perspective if you can do it to do Moth this early. Or they may just not be grabbing many more safeties after this to make this much easier than it is right now.
That's fair. That's also an idea. They may have looked looked at the log and decided, well, I'm probably only going to be grabbing 1 or 2 more hearts after this, and the mail's not easy to find, so I might as well just do it now.
I mean, yeah, a lot of the damage on this fight also comes from the spikes, and the mail doesn't change their damage. So we see both of them. Mentos is doing hammer strats. SaltyPhry is sticking with the sword. Mentos gets it down with 1 heart left, and it is the cape.
Speaking of safeties you wish you had while you were fighting Mothula.
Let's see if SaltyPhry can get this down. Hopefully so. Oh, it's close. Oh, that's an unfortunate one. Gets caught up there and is gonna bail. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, at some point you have to make the decision between being gutsy about it and being consistent about it, and then just getting tilted and not being able to beat it at all.
Yeah, it does put him behind. There's not really a question about that, but there's still room to catch up at this point. If you keep going in, if you get on tilt, then you're gonna probably fall too far behind to stay in the race. So we do see the boots up on Bumper Cave, so there is a use for that cape that just got picked up beyond being safer.
Yes, and that's one thing we have noticed in these seeds. The boots are generally routed in very early when they can be, and they save a boatload of time.
Alright, so we see a fairy in a bottle get grabbed as a safety for SaltyPhry. We'll see if they head straight back with that in hand towards Skullwoods, or if they go do some other stuff first.
Looks like they're turning it into Sick Kid. Wonder what he has for us today.
It's got the mushroom, so let's find out what the witch has, as obviously she has something.
Do you want to do a fetch quest? I'm sorry, I couldn't help it.
On the bright side, at least the first part of this 3-piece chain to get the Master Sword was another safety. So if they go back in now, they're up to, you know, a fairy in a bottle plus Master Sword. It should be a much more manageable fight. They didn't pick up the Bottle Fairy before going to Moth because the Bottle Fairy was effectively locked behind Hammer, which was in Skullwoods. Would have been way more out of the way without the hammer, I should say.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's something that you really have to think about when watching this stuff, because they're both doing stuff in slightly different orders.
Sorry, that's totally wrong. I'm just wrong.
It does make me wonder why he didn't get the fairy then. I didn't realize there was one there.
We see the same chain coming down from Mentos' side. And SaltyPhry's heading back.
Revenge is nice if you can get it. SaltyPhry at this point also has a sword upgrade, so it should make it a little easier.
Yeah, I think this will probably go a lot better for him. Yes, every race in this tournament is a open Ganon seed.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll do something like Key Sanity.
I mean, they're going to need a lot more study time for Key Sanity.
Hey, I won't be racing it. I don't care either way.
So we see the Mothula fight go much smoother with the Master Sword.
Very, very nicely done. Grabs his cape, and I imagine he'll be heading over to get the boot shortly.
We also see Mentos heading towards the locksmith here. And the locksmith will give us a key to 2 of the dungeons, as both Mire and Turtle Rock are quake locked.
This is one of those seeds that is fun for a spoiler log seed. I couldn't imagine doing it blind.
So we see Mentos head into Desert. Has everything needed to complete it, no matter what the layout is, courtesy of those boots. And we do see SaltyPhry heading towards the boots.
Hey, there's our flippers. That's one more item off the list.
Yep, 100% required because Swamp Palace is a crystal.
There are several items, though, that we still do need, so this is coming to be a little interesting. Usually with these races, they're in go mode or maybe one item away from go mode that's kind of deeply tucked at about this time, but we still have several things we're missing, so we must have some convoluted logic here.
Yeah, either convoluted or just it's actually kind of conveniently along the way. Sometimes linear seeds where you just get an item at a time are good.
That's fair. SaltyPhry making use of that fairy in a way he probably didn't anticipate when he grabbed it.
I mean, it's Mothula's dead. That was the goal with it.
That's fair, and they do call them murder dactyls for a reason.
So, really, even after that, we see the routes diverge again as Mentosman's headed down towards Desert and SaltyPhry heads into Thieves.
Yep, at this point it looks like we're just clearing crystals and maybe grabbing some stuff along the way that we need.
Speaking of things we need, Lanmo has the Cane of Samaria. Bosses are just kind of collecting the unique items this time between that and the cape.
They are. I guess we'll see if Blind has anything shortly.
Yeah, we're running a little lower on required items here, but the hookshot or bow could still be very nice.
That's fair. We also do need the mirror.
That is true. That is also required as Mire is a crystal.
Yep, that and Swamp.
Or not Mire. I'm sorry.
It happens.
So we see Mentosman heading up to Zora with less than 500 rupees, but there's a big 300 sitting there on the ledge.
SaltyPhry gets really unlucky with those crickets in the attic. That is really unfortunate.
Yet those enemies are terrifying. They're secretly, like, one of the scariest enemies in the game.
Well, that's a convenient place for a 300 rupee hoard. Alright, Mentosman making the second trip around the domain of Zora, presumably to go argue with the big fish himself.
Yeah, I brought you these 300 rupees that I found somewhere. Study time is 15 minutes.
And there's the mirror.
Yep, as mentioned, totally required.
Alright, so we are just down to the bow and the hookshot at this point, and those crickets are out for blood.
Yeah, he does get the bombable floor, so even if the unfortunate happens, won't have to come back up there. And we are going to see Hype Cave today. We get the hook shot and 1 1/4 heart out of there. That's pretty hype, given that that's like 1/5 of the health right now.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure that Mentosman is fairly pleased to be up to 5 hearts now.
Goes out of his way a little bit to snag half magic out of Bonk Rocks.
If the health is gonna stay where it is this seed, I don't blame him a bit.
Yeah, I mean, they did have a required cape, so it is a very nice bit of safety.
It is, and I missed the pun there from Blind. Did you catch it?
Yeah, they tried to catch Fog, but they missed.
That one's terrible. I was actually hoping it was going to be a new one, because I heard that part of this wonderful bot that Synac has compiled is that they threw in a couple new puns, and I've been waiting for the new puns, but I haven't seen them yet.
My understanding is that that's Triforce text in Ganon, but not Blind, because Blind has enough puns, but I might be wrong. That said, I too am rooting for it. Oh, we see Mentosman take a death in Spike Cave, but does have a fairy left.
That may have been another reason to grab the half magic. There might be something here that he needed.
Yeah, I think he's good without it, especially using the fairy like that, but... And there's our bow, so that we're quickly finding our required items.
I'm pretty sure that's actually outside of the lamp, which probably isn't going to be picked up. Go mode for Mentosman.
That is correct. Still might want a tempered sword if possible, if there's one somewhere convenient, but might just go with what he's got. Goes for the chicken clip, manages to make it vanish.
And for my next trick, I shall disappear a bird. Finally coming in here and grabbing a couple of much-needed hearts.
Yeah, going out of the way for a couple of safeties there seems totally reasonable.
You went from 5 hearts to 7 hearts in about 45 seconds and 100 rupees, so it wasn't bad as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you have to think he's probably pretty comfortable at 7 hearts in blue mail. Not that
you can go ahead.
I said not that you turn down more, but that's probably a level for doing these where most of the runners in this tournament are going to be okay.
Nekaramza, to answer your questions, they get 15 minutes to look at it beforehand, and the commentators and the tracker do get the log. We like to pretend we don't for the most part because we don't want to spoil it for everyone else, but we do know what is where if we so desire to look. And I would dare say the tracker would almost need the log with how quickly items come in.
Yeah, I feel like tracking on this is expert tracker mode.
It also allows them to get a head start on what pendants, what dungeons are pendants, what dungeons are crystals, and what the medallion requirements are for 2 of the dungeons. So it's one less thing to worry about, since in, I think, all of these so far, I haven't seen a map check. It's not really needed, so...
So we're going to see them trading dungeons now, retracing each other's steps.
Yep, at this point it's just about clearing stuff and finishing up the game, more or less. SaltyPhry only has a couple more items he needs, and Mentosman, outside of any safeties he decides to get, will be good to go for the rest of the race, so...
Yeah, and we know that the items that SaltyPhry needs are mostly along the way. So it's just going to be about execution at this point. A tempered sword would make a pretty big difference if they can get it and it's not in some terrible location.
Let's be honest, it probably is.
So we're going to see another blind fight. So here's your chance to see the pun in person, in text form, the way it was intended to be experienced.
It's just not one that I see very often, so I initially just got a glimpse of the text box itself, and it looked like it was a new pun, and that made me really excited, but alas, it was for naught.
Good, clean blind fight.
Very nice blind fight.
Nice 2-cycle land move from SaltyPhry.
Very much so. I wonder if SaltyPhry is going to end up grabbing half magic like Mentosman did.
They may decide to skip it just to try and make up some of the time lost in Skullwoods earlier. It's not going to be mandatory, so...
That's very fair. That's another extra little additional part we get here for the spoiler log races. It's because they can, I guess, screen snipe, for lack of a better phrase, on each other. They can kind of see how the other person's doing, and if their opponent's ahead, they may decide to skip a couple of safeties that they had originally planned on grabbing.
Yeah, I mean, this is different from normal races where I believe every runner has always felt like they were behind the whole time. But SaltyPhry probably would have been pretty sure they were behind from those deaths anyway. They just know it now. And they know they're not so far behind that it's out of reach, for that matter. So skipping the safeties is a worthwhile thing.
Unless it leads to a death immediately afterwards.
Well, certainly.
Alright, we do see a new location here for Mentosman while SaltyPhry will do his double circle around Zora.
Yeah, we'll see if there's anything worth grabbing in Swamp or if this is just straight go mode. So we see both of them make the same loop around Zora. Which makes sense. That's a very convenient, like if there's not another convenient big 300 somewhere.
Yeah, I want to say there are either 5 or 6 in the package out of the 216 item locations we have, so that's probably about as convenient as you're going to get.
Yeah, SaltyPhry is going to have to pick up some more rupees after this, I believe. No, wait, Pod's a pendant. Never mind.
Pod's a pendant that we don't have to go into. That's new.
Yeah, so yeah, we don't actually have to spend the money on the monkey.
Yep, and Mentosman just heading straight to the back, so nothing worthwhile in Swamp for him at least.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if there were a sword on the left side of Swamp, if it would be worth grabbing.
As SaltyPhry does grab his half magic, so I suppose it's worth it.
Looks like Mentos is going to be going with spin strats for Argus. I say that, and then he switches to slashes.
As long as it's not a menu boss, it's not really a terribly big deal.
Yeah, that or a fighter sword one. Accidentally switches to mirror for a moment, but fortunately does not hit it.
That would have been unfortunate.
So given that SaltyPhry had burned his fairy, the half magic does come in handy for his spike cave.
That's fair, not something I'd consider when he was grabbing it. It's a good heads-up play on his part.
Yeah, so we're going to see Mentos head back towards Eastern to finish up the one double dip that was required by the seed. To answer chat, I believe silvers were in Eastern, weren't they? I may have forgotten. There's a lot going on.
That sounds right. You are correct, they are in Eastern.
Yeah, that's why Mentos has them, but Salty doesn't. Salty dipped out of Eastern earlier.
SaltyPhry making his way over to the pyramid area. There's got to be something good in here. We know it's not required, so maybe it's that third sword you've been talking about.
Yeah, it is. That's the one I was really curious if they would go grab.
Yeah, I imagine it's almost definitely worth the time, especially since SaltyPhry has not yet done Swamp. If he knows the quick kill there, It definitely saves a bit of time, as well as time saved on Ganon, etc., etc.
Yeah, Ganon and Tronics are the really big ones for me, but... The always entertaining Silver Arrow Aramos Knights.
Pretty much an endless brigade of wow, 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 wow.
I assume we're going to see SaltyPhry go get the silver arrows. They save more time on Ganon than it's going to cost to grab them. Not even counting everywhere else in the seed.
Yeah, and with Vitreous being required, I imagine that would definitely be a grab. A little bit of indecision there, but he decided to go get it in the end.
Yeah, we do see Mentosman go and grab the lamp out of Meyer's shed. It's not terribly far out of the way. I assume he's pretty comfortable with the Meyer dark rooms, but if it's that close, you might as well get it.
Yeah, definitely worth it at that point, especially if, you know, Meyer dark rooms suck for him even half as much as they suck for me.
Yeah, I think they're probably the second hardest set in the game after Aga Tower, although there's a universe of difference in those two.
The amusing part is that one's in the Dark World and one's in the Light World. There literally is a universe of difference.
So the sword difference is the pyramid ledge sword.
And Mentosman showing us a quick burrito break.
Yeah, the 15 minutes you get, you can usually map out like a lot of your early game and your overall routing, but you're not going to be able to map out every dungeon perfectly.
In addition, a lot of the chest names are somewhat vague if you're not overly familiar with NMG. So seeing something like map chest or compass chest might not help you if you don't know exactly where those are in the regular game.
Yeah, there is a convenient guide with images to what the names are in the log. But you don't really have time to consult with that in your 15 minutes. So we're gonna see.
Go right ahead.
So we're gonna see Fry head over towards Meyer as well. So they'll both be in the same dungeon for the first time in a while. Oh, and they are gonna skip the lamp, so that'll save 10-15 seconds.
Depending on how the dark rooms go, that 10-15 seconds is up for grabs.
It's a 2-cycle second room. I love seeing other people execute that room because my personal record is something like 7 cycles.
7 cycles, that's pretty good.
It's my lucky number. Vitreous is going to be a bit of a joke with silver arrows. The shooting gallery goes down easy.
And Mentosman grabbing his cup full of eyeball gelato.
I don't think that that's a good idea. Why are all my co-commentators obsessed with eating the bosses?
I mean, have you considered that maybe we're just all hungry? And plus, Vitreous comes with a nice sauce.
Don't drink acid, kids.
Hey, you never know, it might be a base.
So we're seeing Mentosman head up towards Turtle Rock. He's going to be in Ganon's Tower pretty soon, so that's all that's between him and the Big Pig.
And while we're on the note of Ganon's Tower, don't start guessing yet, but we play the big key guessing game a little differently here in a spoiler log since, well, spoiler, the runners know where the big key is. So instead we go by locations. Guess by location, don't guess by number. So as soon as Mentosman finishes up Trinex, you can go ahead and toss some guesses in chat, and then we'll divulge where we think it is, because I don't ever look at where the big key is either.
Yeah, that was something we specifically decided not to look at, so we'll take guesses together after. A good clean dark room's going on.
Yeah, from the little bit I could see there, it looked very nice. Look, Sinak, I know that you're admin and everything, but you can't steal my tile room guess. That's my guess.
And we see SaltyPhry getting Vitreous down cleanly.
Yep, at this point, it looks like SaltyPhry is behind by a full, a go mode swamp and then a bit of Turtle Rock, so it's not insurmountable, but he's going to be looking for Mentosman to make a mistake if he wants to win this one.
Yep, and then there's a third sword for Mentosman. So we will not be seeing a Master Sword Trinex after all.
I'm sure Mentosman is pleased about that.
Yeah, I think it would take some kind of significant error here for SaltyPhry to catch up, but the only thing he can do is execute as well as he can to try and make that happen.
I hate that change, bro.
Yeah, I think it's on the short list for most deadly, like, just random room in the game.
Alright, if you are just joining us in chat and have no idea what a spoiler log tournament is, basically what we've done is we've taken regular, open, randomized sword, defeat Ganon seeds, and we have allowed the runners a 15-minute grace period before the race starts to look at the entire spoiler. The spoiler has everything from where the items are, to what the crabs drop, what the tree pulls are, all that. They're given 15 minutes to parse through as much as they can, as quickly as they can, before they start their run with the information that they have. They can keep the log up for the entirety of the race as they need, but obviously you're not going to want to spend too much time looking at your spoiler log as opposed to racing.
And now Mentosman is relatively low on health at the moment.
I feel like that's been the story of this seed.
Well, not just capacity, but actual current health.
Alright, we have a skip of Mimic Cave, so nothing good there.
Gonna take an intentional death for the health refill here, though.
Don't blame him at all.
Yes, so give both these runners a follow while we're kind of just waiting on Mentos to get through the Turtle Rock go mode. And also stay tuned right after this, because this is game 1, and these two runners are playing game 2 immediately following this the conclusion of this race.
Very much so, and keep in mind that today and tomorrow we are going to be absolutely jam-packed with races on the Speed Gaming family of channels. There's going to be a bunch of stuff for our specific tournament, and a lot of other stuff going on too, so grab a look at the schedule and find some stuff you like, or find some stuff you've never seen before and see if you end up liking it.
Yeah, I believe it's something like 10 races in this tournament scheduled today and up to 9 tomorrow. Some of those are games 3 if necessary, but even so. A good clean Armor's kill.
It was definitely showing the superiority of the tempered sword there.
Mentosman appears to be going for the full hover today.
I would presume that Mentosman has been screen sniping and knows that he's ahead by a bit. Alright, a little over halfway there.
This is, of course, actively slower than just using that cane. Oh, no!
At that point, that was just insult.
This is, what, 2 blocks away from it?
Needs to be careful here. Trinex does some damage.
Yeah, but gets the heads down heading into the final phase. And a clean kill of it.
Alright, so go ahead and get your location guesses in chat. Mercer, where's our big key?
I'm gonna go with the vanilla location because I'm pretty sure it's the slowest.
Alright, that's not bad. Since the person who calls himself the king of this tournament took my lovely, lovely tile room guess, I'm gonna have to go ahead and say the top left chest in Rando Room.
Yeah, Rando Room's also not quick.
That attempted hover at Turtle Rock makes me wonder if we're gonna get a Moldorm 2 hover here.
I mean, it is approximately, what, like a tenth as long?
Oh, come
dear.
on. Synax stole my guess and he was right? That's not fair. I'm calling shenanigans.
On the bright side, they do have the cape in this seed, and it was mandatory, so this is just a break instead of having to dodge around this room.
And this shows us a wonderful glitch. Most people know that if you have the cape on and you're swinging your sword rapidly, it drains the magic more slowly. But if you have the cape active and you grab a wall and just hold on for dear life, your magic meter doesn't go anywhere.
A glitch I used in about my first dozen Ganon kills.
A glitch I wish I knew about for my first dozen Ganon kills.
So we're going to get to see the gauntlet here from Mentos. Always a highlight to watch with the runners of this caliber.
Most definitely, especially as for these races, they're usually equipped much less well than they would be in a regular rando race.
Yeah, tempered sword plus silver arrows is pretty good, though.
That's fair. This one has been kinder in terms of that sort of thing. They even got an armor upgrade.
Yeah, seeing combination fire rod strats there to take out some of the skeletons.
Yeah, with half magic, having fire rod in the gauntlet is definitely superior to anything else I've ever tried.
Has a little bit of trouble getting out of the ice room, which is pretty natural. Ice is tough. Oh no, SaltyPhry takes a death.
That's really unfortunate.
Yeah, he did take the safety, not the laser bridge safety door yet, but at least he's not at the very beginning.
Yeah, it's definitely not as bad as it could have been, but it's still unfortunate, especially when you're trying to catch up.
Yep, we see the cane strats on those rooms, which look so good and are actually pretty easy to pull off, relative to many of these things that look much easier but are much harder.
Alright, Mentosman being gutsy, heading straight up the staircase there, but we do not have a tower despawn, so that's nice.
Yeah, I assume he's got a sense of the timing. I don't, so I always wait. Misses the bomb on the first try, but that's okay. Grabs 300 rupees because I guess he feels like he can take it with him into the next seed.
It's actually not a bad idea, and now we have Moldorm 1, I guess, since Hera wasn't required.
Does not go for the hover there. May, be a little tired from the 30 seconds of hovering before.
Yeah, I was gonna say, his hands probably cramped from the attempt to turtle rock. Oh, that's unfortunate. SaltyPhry taking a death over Trinex.
Mentosman
Very nice.
Alright, Mentosman gets the 3-2-1 on Aga 2.
That was very well done considering the patterns he got. And keep in mind, we will not be having an interview at the end of this race, since this is the first in a doubleheader. They will step in for an interview, presumably, after the next race concludes.
It is like Deja Vu. I've seen that one. I was hoping for a new one.
Yeah, I'm now hyped for these new ones, but this is one of my favorite old ones.
Using Cape to guarantee the 1-1 for the first two phases of Ganon.
With half magic, that's a really sound decision.
Yeah, and at 4 hearts. And pushing into phase 4, just 4 silver arrows between him and victory. Gets the torch glitch. Just misses the triple, but finishes it off right after. Just hold the sword aloft, walk across the bridge, and claim your victory in game 1.
And give your GGs to Mentosman, who finished with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 20 seconds.
And the Triforce rewards him with the value.
You know, I'm pretty sure he picked up the value on the chest before Moldorm there.
Meanwhile, SaltyPhry going to start his tower climb here, heading to Tile Room for his coffee break.
Well, since I didn't get one in Hera, I suppose the game figures they owe him one anyways.
This one's got a lot more going on. Shiny anti-fairies, hands dropping from the ceiling. That poor, deeply confused Bunny Beam.
He's here, I swear he is. I just can't find him.
Manages the mirror and then transformed into a bunny at the entrance. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
That bunny beam would not be denied. Very quick work of those 2 mimic rooms there.
Yeah, I love watching the really skilled racers do that. Just gonna see him running through these gauntlet rooms. Coming through with about 3 hearts less, I think, than Mentos had in the end.
I think so, 2 or 3. I can't remember if Mentosman had 8 or 9 hearts. SaltyPhry having some trouble in the same room Mentosman did a couple of minutes ago. Good recovery for the 1 cycle, though.
You're gonna grab a heart here. It'd be good to see a few more health drops there.
Yeah, those definitely don't go amiss when you are on Blue Mail and have 6 hearts and you find yourself in Ganon's Tower.
That sounds like my entrance randomizer nightmare.
And that, my friends, is why I don't do entrance randomizer.
Cleanly through the fire rod rooms.
Alright, and while SaltyPhry is finishing up, once more, make sure you give our runners a follow, as they do this far better than, well, most of the rest of the planet does, at the very least. Also, give a follow to our tracker, who had to track at twice the speed, courtesy of this being a spoiler race. While you're at it, throw Mercer over here, my fellow co-com, a follow, as he's done an excellent job on what I believe is his 2nd call.
Yes, and follow Hammer, who has 50% more experience than I do. But a good fun time anyway. So we're going to see this Aga 2 clear.
Very nice triple there.
See another 3-2-1 out of Salty to match Mentos's.
And a couple of bonks to go with it. Alright, and in a fashion that's eerily reminiscent to the other Ganon fight, we have 4 hearts walking in.
Yeah, but butter means that a 1-1 is practically guaranteed.
That is very fair, but it doesn't make it look any less cool when it happens. I certainly agree with chat, you can never have enough pork kebabs.
I'm more for pulled pork. Gets the double, misses the torch glitch, but it won't matter with that half magic. And there's another double.
Very, very nicely done there, as SaltyPhry has to walk across his own perilous bridge. And give your GG's to Salty. He finishes with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 18 seconds.
A good game to both our runners, and now they need to wipe all of that out of their heads because they need to get ready for their second match as Salty tries to force a game 3.
Very much so, and as you can see by the collection rate on Mentosman's side, our spoiler race collection rates tend to be much, much lower than would be even feasible in a blind race.
Yeah, that's certainly true. If anything, 66 is actually a little on the high side for one of these seeds.
Well, there was enough fetch questiness that there were more things that you'd normally that you normally wouldn't have to grab that you did to grab other things. So it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But good luck to both our runners in game 2, and hopefully, I know I'll be sticking around to watch that. I believe Sinek himself, our admin, is going to be one of the commentators, and then Math Girl is the other one. So let's look forward to that one.
Very much so. Mercer, did you have any further commentary on this race before we head out and let them set up?
I don't. How about yourself?
No, I think we have it pretty much well covered. So, for the both of us, I am Hammer Bro, and with Mercer, we are heading off, and we'll be joining you to watch the next race. Stay tuned.